Florida-like weather today. I'm Linda Manley. I'm the brand new president of Mangrove chapter. This is my first real chapter meeting, and it's our anniversary celebration. That's pretty cool. I follow in the footsteps of greatness. Not only Lois Cantwell, our immediate past president, but all the presidents and all the board members from the past who have donated so much to this chapter. I want to thank you all for coming today. You are the foundation that our chapter was built on, and we couldn't be here without you. Each one of you played a valuable role in our chapter, not only through your work, your toil, your efforts, but simply by being members and caring enough to join and to support the belief that native plants are the key to the survival of the world as we know it. This room is filled with memories today, not only those displayed on all the tables and in the photos on the screen behind me, but in our hearts and our minds as well. Some of you can remember the early days of the chapter when all the hopeful, bright-eyed members established an organization that would do everything possible to promote and protect the native plants of Florida. Others of you are longtime members who worked in the demonstration garden, trekked along with Denny Gerard and Al Squires on their field trips, the famous Denny and Al shows, and helped people choose native plants for their own landscape. And some of you are like me, relative newbies trying to learn how to make the world a better place for future generations. To all of you, again, welcome and thank you. I would like to introduce our current board members, those of you who are now working to promote the critical value of saving our native plants. Board members, if you just stand briefly when I call your name, and audience, if you'll please save your applause until the end. First, Steve Brandlich, Secretary. Steve is brand new. In fact, today is his first chapter meeting. Linda Wilson, Treasurer. Her own description of her job is treasurer for life. I'm not sure how many years she served in this position, but we are very grateful. Kate Borduas, Chapter Representative. Kate is our link to the state level of MNPS and a prominent leader in our nature walks and talks. Bobby Rogers, in charge of grants, conservation, and education. I'm sure many of you remember Bobby, who worked here at Cedar Point for so many years. There's Kate.
That's the blue lady. Well, was I being introduced?
Yeah. Just barely. You missed it by about a minute. Barb Seibel, Field Trips. Barb is our resident expert on native plants, especially concerning botanical names, and conducts plant surveys here at Cedar Point every month. Barb also maintains and updates the chapter calendar. Marianne Owen, Hospitality. Marianne is our raffle queen. She makes certain everyone gets a raffle ticket at the meeting and signs the book, which is a critical part of recording our volunteer hours. Gail Finney, newsletter. I believe Gail couldn't make it today. Using email, Gail assembles and distributes the Mangrove Messenger, our communication lifeline to our members. Ruth Ward, Programs. Ruth searches far and wide for talented and knowledgeable speakers for our meetings, and she teaches plant propagation workshops as well. Stephanie Thornton, Publicity. Stephanie ensures that all our walks, meetings, and other events are in the public eye via local print media. Ann Lisberg, Social Media. Ann manages our Facebook page, monitoring posts, admitting new members, and posting events and interesting stories. Dave Manley, Digital Services. Dave oversees all aspects of the website, video records meetings, and writes the news blog. And Lois Cantwell, Garden Chair, and our immediate past president. Lois's jobs and projects are far too numerous to itemize, and we owe her a tremendous debt. I think she'd like to say a few words, right?
Yeah, I'm going to take this off. Biting into my ear. I'll just share something. I I was doing an archaeological dig on one of the drawers under my computer the other day. I discovered, oh my back, everyone. I discovered this little roll of like a miniature scroll tied up in a grid, and I thought, what the heck is that? So I unrolled it, and it says Volunteer Survival Kit. And it sort of summarizes us as volunteers, even though we're Mangrove chapter members, we basically are volunteers. So it starts out with, and these are the components of your survival kit. Starts with a tea bag to let everyone know you are terrific. A Band-Aid for all the aid you provide. Lifesavers to remind you that you were appreciated a whole lot. 2 pennies, so you have the sense to realize how valuable you are. Mint, to remind you that you're thankful, that we're thankful for your commitment. Tootsie Roll, for the important role that you play. Paperclip, for keeping things organized, and I have thousands of those. Crayon to color your days cheerful and bright. And a rubber band, and this is important, to remind you to stay flexible. Because in these times, we've got to be flexible. So I just want to say how wonderful it's been to spend the last 14 years with our chapter. And today being our celebration day, I thought so. When did I actually become a member? 2008, so it's been 14 years as of the end of January. So, very exciting. So that's it. I really appreciate having been a part of this whole thing, and I'm just hoping that between our seasoned members and our newest members that we move forward relatively painlessly as time goes by. So thank you all.
Thank you, Lois. For those of you who haven't already heard, Lois is returning to Michigan at the end of the season, so she will be out of sight but not out of mind.
We're still email.
We have special guests with us today who would like to share a few memories. Lynn Wilson is going to introduce our first special guest.
So, Linda tells me I joined in 94. I thought it was earlier than that, but I'll take 94. I remember Kathy Rader Gibson as the president, and Dave Wilson, who was one of the founding members, and I wish I brought the list, but unfortunately, he's the only one we could find. So he was treasurer at the time. Had been treasurer for a long time. I don't think since 84, but yes. It's a job we should never have taken because it is for life. And so I got the job from him. A few people have filled in. Bobby did a couple years. Jane did a couple years. Kavina, I think, did a couple years. Anyway, we don't have a lot of history from back then, so I was hoping Dave could give us a little spiel on what projects we've done, and thank you for giving me the job, I think.
I'll keep it real short. When we started over in the original members were Dave Lambert, who was the county extension agent. I don't know whether many of you remember him or not. He was the driving force behind us becoming a chapter. What we were was the Charlotte Harbor Native Plant Advisory Council, and it was there before there was a Native Plant Society. And he said, "Well, we need a Native Plant Society." So we had Coila Seeley. Anybody remember Coila? No.
Yes.
Betty Care.
Yep.
Remember Betty Care? Betty Care's claim to fame was she was the original pirate wildflower planter. She would throw wildflowers out the windows. And if you see wildflowers along the roads, a lot of them were planted by Betty. They've survived all these years. So, yeah. And of course, you can't forget our own Marley Blackwell. Marley lived right up the road up here. So.
And one of the projects that I first started on was, not that one, but the Edison College.
Yeah, Edison College, yeah.
And
Lynn and I were at Edison College, and our primary goal there was to clear out the Brazilian pepper and the rosary pea vines, which were everywhere. So, in fact, I made the mistake of taking some of the vines home to my property. By mistake, I threw them in a pile, getting ready to burn them, and they escaped. And now it's in constant battle, along with Brazilian pepper.
Your house was built stem wall and kept the trees, which is truly amazing.
Put her in stem wall.
I'll always remember that.
Put her in stem wall, and that's why the trees were all saved. And we only hand cleared. And if you Google it on the map, it's on Little Falls Avenue in Port Charlotte, which is only 1 block long. And it's the only place where there's a canopy. This was one of our projects. This is not our design. We stole this from Sarasota County. If you go north to the northern entrance of Mayaka State Park, if you drive along those little roads up there, those canopy roads, Sarasota County, it says canopy road, trees maintained by Sarasota County. Of course, Charlotte County wouldn't maintain anything in those days, and so we just said, Charlotte Harbor Native Plant Advisory Council maintained. That's about all I have to say.
Dave, weren't you also chapter rep for a number of years?
Yeah, I guess I was, yeah.
You probably did everything.
Yeah, I did get a green palmetto award for going around this state. That was really a kind of a neat thing. And I got to be a keynote speaker at Rollins College when we had the Florida Native Plant Society convention. It was fun to do that. So.
And we've aligned with the botanical gardens in Punta Gorda, and they tap dated on his shoulder. I haven't checked it lately, but for at least the first 2 years, he did a presentation that's on the website that pointed out all the native plants on the property of the garden.
They have a lot of exotics, and so I said, well, you need to point out the native plants. And so they said, well, we're going to do a video thing. And so they had me go through the property and do a video tour, and I put my big old white hat on, went through there, put all my environmental garb on, and did a video tour. It's rather comical because I have a senior moment in the tour, and they left it in there.
Bobby, you're up.
Oh, okay. Okay, Al Squires. Everybody, how many have been on a walk with Denny and Al? Okay? Okay. Al moved to Florida in 1993. Okay? I actually met him in 1994 because he was with the Save the Manatee Club. So he's been active with something as soon as he got to Florida, as soon as he retired. I was a ranger at Oscar Shear, and it was an Earth Day, and he had a table set up for the Save the Manatee Club, and he came up and says, I need rocks. I need some rocks to put on my pamphlets. I said, you're in Florida. We don't have rocks. Okay? He's from Connecticut. You got rocks there. Go get some shells. You need shells. So we've been friends pretty much ever since. 95, he started here at Cedar Point. He and Denny and a bunch of other guys building the trails. So pretty much the Jeep Trail is here, but all the other ones they spent that summer sweating and pounding and getting out Palmetto and building the trails so that the 4th grade program could start here. None of this was here,
okay? The front parking lot was here, and the fourth grade, he would go out there and bring the kids down along the trails. Eventually, they built the outside bathroom. Again, this building wasn't here. And he and Denny worked security on that. Because being across from Lemon Bay High School, you're going to have graffiti, okay? So they were the security people on there. That was in 95.
I'll be honest, after they move up the front of the radio.
So, yeah, what fun. 97 began, we think that's when you started the Native Plant Society, got involved with the Native Plant Society.
Somewhere in that.
Yeah, you've been president, he said he's been president and vice president many times because he didn't want to be secretary or treasurer, that's too much work. In 2006, he also got the Green Palmetto Award. So that's a very prestigious thing for the Native Plant Society. And of course, it went to Denny and Al together. He's attended many, many conferences, most of them. Of course, there was the Denny and Al show, which if you haven't taken part in that, Denny, who has passed away, and our good buddy Denny and Al, would do guided walks, and they never agreed with anything. You know, somebody would say, oh, that's a such and such, and Al would go, no, it's not Denny, you know, and vice versa. So it was a great, great time. He's been about 15 years as a chapter rep, at least. In 2020, he moved to Winter Springs, okay, so he left us. And, but now he is the chapter rep with the couplet firm, okay, so they stole him away from us. But Al's been down here for a long time, and I hope he has some stories to tell us. Al's fire.
Well, the first place, the reason I was never treasurer, our secretary, is I couldn't talk and write at the same time. There's no way I was going to stop talking. Funny, okay? It's really neat seeing so many of you still here, though. Mary Ann Owen is leaving us. They're moving north. She's the last remaining member of the original volunteers here. And we've had great times together, all of us. I met Denny at the first volunteer meeting, which is over at the high school, in a classroom. And after the meeting, everybody, you know, where are you from? Because nobody's here from Florida. And so he says, upper New York State. I said, that's a pretty big area. He says, well, north of Albany. I said, that's still a big area. He says, well, he says, little town outside of Saratoga Springs. I said, where? He says, Boston Spa. I said, that's the biggest and nastiest smelling sulfur spring I've ever seen or smelled. He says, you've been there. It was true. I worked there one summer when I was in college for Agricultural Research Service on some gypsy mussel spring. Really worked out well. They had the solar thermal fences mixed with fuel oil. And the stuff caked in the bottom of the drum, and they were essentially just spraying fuel oil. I worked on the project, and a couple of fellows there working with us locals lived in Boston Spa, so that's how we got a chance to see the great spring in Boston Spa. As Bobby said, Denny and I had some great times doing walks here and for Sarasota County. We had our monthly Native Plant Chapter walk. Did several walks for Sarasota County through Czech and also from Sarasota County. But I had a good life here, and now I moved up to Seminole County. A couple currently grabbed me as soon as I moved up to be chapter rep there, mainly because their president was also chapter rep. He had to give up chapter rep because in May he becomes state president. Mark is one of these super organized guys, so he's going to do a great job. But guess whose van is hauling all the stuff for cram sales and shows? What do you think about that? So I haven't slowed down much. and Native Plant Society is still one of my main things I do, so thank you.
Well, gosh, our speakers hardly took any time at all today. We're going to take a break now. Well, no, first. Is there anybody else here who'd like to share stories? I know we have some very long-time members here, and I'd sure like to invite you to stand up and tell a couple of your favorites. Gosh, not everybody all at once, huh? Okay, well, we're going to take a break. You can look around at the exhibits that we have on the back table especially. You can have some cookies and some, I think, tea or lemonade.
Tea.
Oh,
Yeah, they have no lemonade at Publix. What's with that?
well, I don't know. They have something to drink, okay?
Refreshments.
In the back, on the back table, we have some old issues of Palmetto that we found when we were cleaning out some cabinets. Please help yourself and take whatever you want of those Palmetto issues. They go back to, I think, 1989. We have several copies of some of the issues. And eventually, what we don't give away, we're going to have to recycle. So don't be shy. Take, whatever you need or whatever you'd like to have. I left my speech somewhere else. At 2 o'clock, unless we have some liquid Florida sunshine, Al is going to lead a walk through the Cedar Point trails. And if it's raining, that's, at your own risk. And Lois theoretically also is going to give a tour of the demonstration garden. So at 2 o'clock, those may or may not take place. Meanwhile, have some cookies, socialize, and if 2 o'clock is not suitable, then just socialize some more and look at all the displays we have. And thank you all for being here. First, I have to thank the people who put this together. Bobby and Linda formed the committee, and they just made this all come together. They contacted all of our old members, and what?
I think he's got a few words to say too.
Did you want to say something?
I didn't have anything in mind.
My name is not been in the thing.
Well, if you haven't seen this, looks like a brand new building now. So the building got a remodel once Bobby retired. It's a really good time.
They got a kitchen now,
I guess I was part of that remodel. But it was kind of perfect timing. It closed March of 2020 with COVID, and that's when the remodel got going. And brand new wood floor, so we have a nice echo now. Brand new windows and shelves. This whole wall and TV is brand new, and there's still plenty more on the way. So every time you guys come back, we'll have new exhibits, something different going on in here. So definitely it's still a work in progress. Pretty exciting. I just had my 1-year anniversary here last week.
Okay, let's see, I was thanking Bobby and Linda.
If you'd like to do a big round of applause for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank Dave Manley for doing the photo loop that's back here. And everybody who's supposed to be taking pictures. I haven't seen any flashes lately. And gosh, there was somebody else that I need to thank. Just hang on a second. I my speech notes. Lois, of course, who made several of the displays, including the one about Annie, front and back of the posters there. And to Gerald for letting us have our celebration here at Cedar Point. So now, socialize, have a cookie, yes?
Just one thing, there were several mentions of Palmetto Awards, but we didn't mention Linda Wilson. I believe that we recommended a Palmetto Award for her some
I
time
just
back.
remembered it, it's hanging in my kitchen.
Yeah, and I think that we recognize you for what, your longevity? See, I've been a member so at that time for forever, and have done so many things, and walk the walk and talk the talk as far as native plants. And of course, her property is loaded with the natives.
I have no lawn, get rid of your lawns, people.
Lawn, your place?
No lawn, there's no lawn.
I've seen her property, and she's right, I don't think she's got 6 more inches of lawn.
If you're lucky, you can
Did
see
you
her house.
run the East River Audubon Society for a while too?
I did. Not one of my favorite memories, and that's all I'm gonna say.
I had, they would complain all the time about developers, and then I would go to their lawns, and they would say, well, there's no birds in Charlotte County, and so that's why I had the native tree of the month, because I would say, every month I would put another native tree, and a pine tree, a pine tree. And I would say, well, you have only yourselves to blame. Well, that made me real popular. so we have that in common.
Okay, Bill, you've been around a long time, is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, the main thing I remember about those early days, like we first bought a property here in 1994, and I don't know the days that we started. We actually, it was my understanding, we went over to Lemon Bay with Catherine Reagan Gibson and wanted to give nature walks. And as far as I know, at that time, there were no nature walks, which is quite a change from these days. I haven't added them up, but there must be, what, 50 a month or something. It's quite amazing. And I'm trying to remember, there was another lady who had an office at Lemon Bay who mainly worked up in northern Sarasota County. There were a bunch of people from Sarasota County Environmental had offices there. So they were very suspicious about this nature walk thing. So Margaret and I walked around, and I gave a walk, and they like videoed this. I guess they were going to take it up to the uppity ups and say, well, is this allowed or something? Or do we want to, have people down there doing this kind of thing? And as far as I could tell, they were in approval. They never actually really said anything. So in those days, I tried to bring an animal every time. So I remember one time I brought a very large rat snake, and we had a lot of people coming in those days. I don't know, there were like 30 people or something jammed into that little front room, and I pulled out this big snake, and apparently some girl like passed out on it. So Kathy was like giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation or something to this person. So we had a lot of fun with those kinds of things, and stuff that probably we wouldn't do today because it would be considered liability or something.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So
you and Danny were first. Why don't you do walks up there
And a lot of things.
as far as I know, we started giving them for Lemon Bay Park, basically. And then Denny showed up on the scene, and what I remember of him, and he was the most astonishing individual, because in those days, my memory, and it may be flawed, he didn't even know the mangroves. And like I could say, he has made the greatest increase in knowledge of anybody I've ever encountered. Because most people, we try to educate. We say, oh, there's 3,500 native plants, forget it, they walk out the door. But Denny worked on it and worked on it and worked on it and really mastered it. It was quite amazing. So if you look at the curve, he went up exponentially and leveled off probably, and then at some stage he encountered the same thing we're all encountering, the senior moments, and repetition, repetition being the best solution to that. But then he was active for 20 or more years, certainly.
Because when I met Danny, he was doing walks at Lemon Bay.
Now that's where, as far as I'm aware, all of the nature walks started there. And I'm not sure when I actually became even aware of the club, because they weren't very active in the sphere that we were doing here in terms of nature walks and stuff. Well, I have to say they were kind of up there, unfortunately. And I was more interested in all of nature, birds, reptiles, amphibians, plants, everything. And in those days, native plant would have probably been more just plants, perhaps, I don't know. It's just, that was a different era, and nature walks weren't as popular as they are now.
The first walk here was November of '95.
November of '95.
Yeah, first walk here. Denny and I were asked to do the first walk after we spent August, September putting the trails.
And Mary Ann and Phil were early with their walks, because she carried around a little, every month, right? We had a little list of what was like kind of blooming. So she'd pull out her cheat sheet.
She had cards with her.
Yeah, little cards. So they did walks. And Mary Ann has a pavilion, Mary Ann and Phil, down at the point. That's the Mary Ann and Phil Owen pavilion, and Al has the pavilion up here.
Yeah, I gotta thank Bonnie. She put my name on the pavilion there instead of the outdoor restaurant. She dreads them.
Who else has things to say? We've had some wonderful memories so far.
We had that lovely secretary from England,
Do what?
the English lady that moved away. It was so much fun.
Kit.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kit.
She was nice too.
Yeah, I have several of her books. She wrote
No, she
books.
was fun. She really made it.
Yeah, yeah. She refused to use a computer. Everything was typed.
She was.
And then you'd make a mistake, pull it up. Yeah.
She did 4 or 5 books.
Yes, yes. All of her travels, she had an
I
interesting
want to
one.
read those.
Okay, I'll pull up.
She read the newsletter. Wow.
Yeah, Kit Henderson.
Phil mentioned the walks. When Dave and I started here, which was I think 2018, there was one field trip a month. And that would be, over season one, maybe 6 or 7, something like that. Well, this season we have about 25 walks. So we have trained a lot of leaders. We have a lot of people who are interested in doing the walks, and it's wonderful to see the growth in the interest in caring about the natural environment. There are still a lot of, bad guys out there, so to speak, but the fact that an increasing number of people care about native plants and the natural environment, to me, is very reassuring.
And
Well,
pay
there's a
attention. Oops.
little walk thing. When Denny and I were doing walks, we'd be happy if we had 10, 15 show up. He had 20, that was really too much for a visit. When Bill went to do a walk, he had 30 plus show up.
Actually, my largest, we had 156 once at Lemon Bay Park. That was definitely too many.
You know what this all tells me? The best thing we ever did was move the Native Plant Society out of Port Charlotte, not
Like a day.
It's the best thing we ever did.
And if anyone's interested in being a walk leader in the future, Kate is going to be making a volunteer training, trail guide training. Keep an eye out on the newsletter and stuff, and it'll be posted when
Well, we've spoken that the only hurdle we have to get over is finding the time to do it. So if it doesn't come together this spring, then certainly we'll set something up in the fall about interpretive guiding. But to follow up with Linda, I've got the wrong badge on, but I'm going to speak as a member of Venice Area Audubon. We're having a rookery day on the 19th of March from 9 to noon. And the whole purpose is to point out to people that no species stands alone, that if you love birds, you're going to have to love native plants first. It's all wrapped up together. You have to have the plants, you have to have the insects, and you also then will get the birds. So the integrated nature of it all is what we're pushing for our whole Rookery Day Festival. So you're all welcome. Some of the steering committee are right over here in this corner. I have flyers in the car.
Native plant will be there.
A native plant will be there presenting materials and free trees. We have free trees to give away. And Laura and I are working on a matrix. We're working on matrices from some of the others that actually list by species how many caterpillars it hosts and how many bees pollinate. So it's like this one, finally somebody put it all together in one spot. So we'll be distributing those, and thanks to Laura.
If anybody wants some to put,
Yeah, we'd like it if you post on. Gerald, not really to put you on the spot, but. So they're here, and we'd be happy to discuss that.
I already did Gerald one
Oh,
last.
Right.
Yeah, it's on the front
As
cover, so.
we're plugging future events, thank you, Kate. We also have our Plant Native Day here on March 12th, which is the week before, March 19th. And we'll have all our usual, plants available. Peter the Butterfly will be here, and Native Plants Nursery will be here, and they are actually going to sell plants. Ours, of course, are for donations. But we'll have lots available there. So March 12th and 19th. Also, March 8th is our next chapter meeting, and we will have Kate speaking about insects
Yes.
at March 8th. So 1 o'clock March 8th, and then Saturday morning, March 12th, Saturday morning, March 19th is VAAS. So, we can keep you busy here if you're interested. Yes, Al?
Behind Denny, I don't know how that got there, but there's a bunch of air potatoes. I want to tell you an air potato story about the air potato in the basement.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead and tell that story.
Yeah, we were pulling potato vines, right? So we just bag full of potato. We used to get the scouts and say, come on, let's go pick up a potato. And then pick up potatoes, a lot of it down there along the property line. Put them in a bag. I had these big black garbage bags of potatoes. And they're non-native, exotic, catworm, blah, blah, blah. But I said, what am I going to do with these? I don't want to throw them in the garbage and send them to the landfill. So I said, I'll just tie up the bag and put it in the basement. So I did that. 4 months later, I walked down, and it was like a little shop of horrors. It was busting right out through the black bag. It was nuts, So I had to throw them in the garbage at that point, but it just shows these things are going to sprout when they want to sprout, No sunlight, no water, it was nothing. So.
And the plastic was so heavy, we named the bags body bags.
Yeah.
Still pushed through.
Yeah.
Al, that picture was taken at Buchan Park when you and I and Linda and Benny, maybe 1 or 2 other people, did a plant survey.
Kenya Leonard.
Tanya Leonard, who at the time, I guess, supervised that park, something like that. They were intending to turn it into a walking trail and wanted to add more native plants, so we were surveying that whole area to point out what was in existence at the time, and I'm not sure that went anywhere. I don't know what happened with that. If it came to fruition or just fell by the wayside. That's where the picture was taken.
Well, I probably don't need to stand up there any longer and supervise this conversation because, it has a life of its own, and you girls talk to each other and chow down on some cookies and whatever there is to drink over there, and pick up some palmettos on your way out. And also, we have 2 binders over there. One of them is an old binder of palmettos that goes back to 1981, and the other one is our historian's book, and it's got wonderful clippings, newspaper clippings and photos and all kinds of wonderful stuff in it. So feel free to go ahead and flip the pages. I mean, the binder must be about this big. So thank you all for coming. Thank my committee again for doing everything they did. If it's not raining at 2 o'clock, you can go downstairs and meet Al out behind the building by the ramp, or meet Lois down in the demonstration garden. So thanks again for coming.
Have 2 cookies. Have 30.
What's coming?
side of the trail line.
I said, well, why not go for it? Well, very good.
You saw this before, didn't you? Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
This is what we're doing. That's not now, is it?
Yeah, that's all. It did a little bit, but it tries to damp that down so the sugar's just not
That's
intentional.
amazing.
Pretty cool. Alright, well, cookies it is.
Very cool.
We had a run for it. So there's a letter.
having a paper in a book like that is really crazy, so
As much as I hate techno, sometimes it's really amazing.
Then I would take white out.
Back in the day.
I gotta yeah, we're in an honorary day.
Yeah, we're trying to get rid of solar in Florida. That made a whole lot of sense. I remember coming to the.
And Bill Parkinson was the one who was in charge of it. It's called we restored St. Charles Church, and that was before that, but now we restored an entire street.
You think of it when you have a day that you're sitting around doing nothing. If you could write a little blurb, trees planted at this church, we have this meeting, we need to have that at Maple College.
When Judy retired from the technical center, we went down to Perkins and we got a truck full of palmetto. We planted them at 3 groups at the cultural center along Cochran, and they're beautiful. She ended up as a principal.
And that's how I first knew Dave, because he was a tree hugger with the campus.
my cousin's coming in tomorrow from Pennsylvania.
Just couldn't get
He's
shots
staying like 5 days.
because there's so many shots for Canada. So